Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for March 16th. Today I'm going to talk about a Munchkin collectible card game, Tyrants of the Underdark, Dead of Winter, The Long Night, Werewolves Within, and the Kickstarter for Retreat to Darkmore. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to Board with Life News. So the GAMA trade show is going on right now. That's a big trade show in Vegas where a lot of publishers show off kind of their games that are coming out over the next couple months. It kicks off con season, so there's going to be a ton of news coming out from that show. That being said, I record this on Tuesday, the day before. You're watching it right now, if you're watching it the day it comes out. Anyways, I record this on Tuesdays, so most of that information hasn't really come out and gotten consolidated in a way that I can go through very easily. So most of that will be in next week's news, but know that there's a ton of board game news coming out right now very quickly. One of those first stories that has come out that I actually was able to find out about today is Steve Jackson announced a Munchkin collectible card game. This is going to be designed by Eric Lang and Kevin Wilson, both very good designers. John Kovalik, who does the artwork for Munchkin, is going to be doing the artwork for all the neutral cards, and then they're going to have different artists doing, specific faction cards, things like that. Obviously, this is going to be set in the Munchkin universe and have the kind of, I assume, funny kind of Munchkin-ness to all of it. They said that the core sets are going to be available everywhere, and then randomized boosters are only going to be for the hobby market. So I assume that means like big box stores will have the core sets, and then, like game stores will have the randomized boosters. It's kind of interesting to see them doing an actual CCG instead of a living card game. So who knows how this will go? There seems like there's been a little bit of a kind of movement back into the collectible realm now that things like Dice Masters and stuff have done well. So definitely interesting to see how this one turns out. Tyrants of the Underdark is a new Dungeons & Dragons board game. This I'm pretty excited about. It's not going to be a dungeon crawler like a lot of their games. It seems like it'll be more in line with Lords of Waterdeep, which was just kind of a Dungeons & Dragons theme on a different type of game. This is an area control game with deck building elements, which sounds pretty interesting to me. It's also going to have a thing kind of like Smash Up where you combine two different decks together. They're going to be two different 40-card decks that you can put to make a total 80-card deck. That you're going to be recruiting your minions from, and those different factions are Drow, Dragons, Demons, and Elemental Evil. So I imagine if the game's successful, that's an easy thing that they can add in more of the Dungeons & Dragons universe. This sounds really cool. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm excited to see area control and deck building combined in an interesting way, and I really thought that Wizards of the Coast knocked it out of the park with Lords of Waterdeep. That's one of my favorite worker placement games. It's one of my favorite games to kind of introduce people to worker placement. So I've got really high hopes for this one. Pre-orders went up today for Dead of Winter, The Long Night. That is the standalone expansion to Plaid Hat's very popular zombie survival game, Dead of Winter. If you pre-order the game through their website, you're going to get a exclusive Rich Summer Survivor character, along with his Sandy and Crossroads card. And then for my shameless plug, Rich Summer was just on our episode 3 of Board with Life, the series, in which we played Dead of Winter, or it was based around Dead of Winter. So you too can have Rich Summer at your Dead of Winter table, playing with you the way we had him play. I'll just end it there. Ubisoft announced that they're going to be doing a VR game based around the popular game Werewolf. This is going to be called Werewolves Within. This is weird. So it's a VR game for like Oculus Rift or any of the new ones coming out where you got the thing on your head and you can look around you and blah, blah, blah. VR, you know what that is. You grew up in the 80s. Or I grew up in the 80s. I don't know when you grew up. And it seems like it's basically vanilla Werewolf, where somebody's secretly a werewolf and you have to argue it out and figure out who the werewolf is and you vote to kill them. But it's VR, and the review I read said that they were all sitting in the same room playing it, which is crazy to me to have like a game where you sit in a room and play with people, but you all have headsets on. I know a lot of people do like kind of text-based Werewolf. I'm not into that. The thing I like about Werewolf is looking at my friends in the eye and seeing if they're lying or not. So this completely loses that actual social element that I really like about the game. Sure, you still talk stuff out and whatever, and maybe it's more immersive thematically because you're actually sitting around a fire in a village with people, but like this just seems really weird to me we talk a lot about in the board game hobby how technology is going to be integrated into board games, and we see it a little bit with apps and stuff. But really, I think more it's going to be how board games are integrated into technology like this. I don't think this is a particularly good example of it. Not that it's not a good example. I don't think that this is very good. I'm not at all interested in paying hundreds of dollars to sit around and play Werewolf with people in a way that I don't think is as good. And yeah, you can say, oh, I play it with my buddies that lives in New York or whatever. But like, you could just play it over Google Hangouts or Skype, and that would still be better because you could see their face. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I see more and more, I think that board games are going to kind of move into this. And like Tabletop Simulator, which is a digital version of board games that you can get on Steam or whatever. I know they've been working really hard to do VR technology so that you'd actually be able to see like you're sitting at a tabletop, and when you look at cards and stuff, it would actually do that because there's a little bit of a disconnect. So that's pretty interesting to me. But yeah, just a weird thing, and it kind of goes to show how big the board game industry has gotten, that Ubisoft is looking at really popular board games or tabletop games to do virtual reality games with. The Kickstarter for this week is for Retreat to Darkmore from Action Phase Games. This is a game for 2 to 4 players. Basically, you all play dark overlords, and you're commanding decks of minions, and something's gone very wrong where you're trying to loot the castle or whatever, so you're trying to retreat to Darkmore. But the heroes are trying to stop you from doing that and capture you. So basically, this game has you taking your minions that are different cards and putting them in different locations. But if too many minions end up in one location, then the heroes are going to come and capture the last person in that location. So there's some strategy going on there. It's got really fun artwork. It looks pretty cool. And it is $19 right now on Kickstarter. So if that interests you, go back it. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe, all that stuff. That's I'm Bored with Life on Twitter and Facebook, and go subscribe to the Moon Art Media channel. Subscribe to this channel, which is Chris Bryan Games, and go follow me on Twitter. I'm at Chris Bryan Games. That way you can stay up to date with all the latest board game news. This week's question comes from at Kindred Dada, and they ask, does focusing on one style of games lead to burnout? Is it better to play a variety of games or not worth worrying about? I find myself certainly going through phases of the types of games I like to play. And that can either be like Euro games or thematic games, or often it's like playtimes. Like sometimes I just want to play a whole bunch of like 20 and 30 minute games in an evening. And I'll do that for a month or two, and then I'll swing back and want to play like only like 1 or 2, like 2 or 3 hour long games. I'm an omni gamer. I kind of play everything. So I've never gotten like stuck on a certain type of game. I've certainly gotten in a place where, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you know that I've been playing a whole lot of Orleans and a whole lot of Isle of Skye, where I play the same game kind of over and over and over again. But I could totally see it leading to that. I mean, I guess I did that some with Hearthstone, which is obviously digital, but I was just playing an insane amount of Hearthstone, and it cut into all my other gaming, so I wound up just like stopping altogether because I was kind of addicted to it. So yeah, but I mean, if you've got a game group and the people like have a variety of different tastes and are always bringing new games to the table, it's not something I would like lose much sleep over, because I feel like if you feel like you've been playing this same game or same type of game and want to play something new, you could just say, hey, I'd like to play this game, or I'd like to play a different type of game. Can we do that tonight? And I bet they'd be down with it. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in this week, and I'll see you next week.